Jeremy, welcome to Fireside Chats.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a big fan of your account, Personal Finance Club. So I'm having a little fanboy moment here.
Well, thank you. The honor's all mine. And yeah, I mean, we were just talking about a second ago. I just started this account 3 years ago. And so I was just a dude with a brand new Instagram account. So it's still kind of all new to me too, trying to build this personal finance brand.
I think it would be great if we could talk a little bit about financial independence. And why don't you start with your past and how you've kind of come to where you are today?
Sure. So the cliff notes are I started an internet company in college. As I was graduating, like my last semester, I graduated with a master's degree in computer science. And so instead of taking a job at Microsoft, I started an internet company. I grew it for 12 years. You know, sometimes when you say I started an internet company in college, you think like, oh, this guy just like hit it big like 6 months later. But like, there's like years, like multiple 2, 3, 4 years where I was like not even making a living wage, just like trying to grind this thing. And I was doing a terrible job at it. You know, it shouldn't take 4 years just to even like be, ramen profitable, but I wasn't very good at it, but I will give myself credit for being, persistent. And so then 12 years after I started, I sold the company for just over $5 million. 2 years later, when I was 36, I quit my job, which was then working for the company that bought us. And so then I was retired at the age of 36. And so, yeah, financial independence to me just means like, you don't have to work for money if you don't want to anymore. You're not like in the rat race. You can like direct your time as you see fit, which often does include working. I don't find it very fulfilling to like watch Netflix all day or whatever. It's very, very nice to not have to like, take shit from a boss if you don't want to.
I agree with that. I'm not in the financial position to give up working. I've got 2 kids. I still have some more to go on my savings goals, but that's something that, a lot of people look to achieve. You got to the point where you don't have to take shit from a boss anymore. Now you're continuing to work. Why?
Yeah. I mean, so for like a year, I didn't. The first year after I quit my job, I was just living life, playing volleyball. I actually coached beach volleyball in Italy for 2 months. I went to Australia. I played video games for like a year. And I'm not a video game player. Like, so for my entire life from like college until that year, I didn't play video games. And then I was just like bored. And so I played StarCraft 2 for a year and I was like addicted and like got super into it. And then after like a year of that, I was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like if I was like a pro gamer or something, maybe there's like something there, but I wasn't even like, I was just like a mediocre player. All right. I uninstalled it cold turkey, like haven't played since, and then started a new project, which is like my passion, which is helping people learn about personal finance and investing, which is what Personal Finance Club is. I just did it for fun. Just wanted to like help people, wanted to like grow something. I set a goal of like getting 50,000 Instagram followers. I thought if I could do that, I would like have like a real like foothold. And then I, got there and beyond. And then after about a year and a half, it was actually in the middle of the pandemic, I kept getting the same questions over and over and over. Like, how do I invest? How do I invest? And so I was like, all right, I should just like make a video course, like A through Z. So whenever anyone asks me, how do I invest? I was like, just take this course. And so I did. And my initial instinct was just to give it away for free, like I was everything else. But I was like, you know what? People don't value free. If they give it for free, they won't take it or they won't finish it. And also if I charge something for it, I'll cover some of my expenses from doing all this stuff and maybe even hire someone to like help grow the brand. And so that's what I did. My first year of my first business, I made $14,000 top line revenue, which is not enough to live on. No. My first week of selling this course for $49, I made $110,000.
Wow.
So it was like kind of crazy that the social media side project was actually grew faster. So, I mean, to that point, I think it's a different kind of a business. It's not like a technology business, which has like exponential growth potential, I don't think, but still had a foothold.
Did that just blow your mind when you had that many sales?
It wasn't really by mistake. Once I decided to like sell it, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do this right. I'm gonna like do a launch. I'm gonna like tease and market it and have a start and end date and have a sale and like, do these things that I was reading about that like orchestrated a good sale. As you may already know from Instagram and from other platforms, someone like just casually scrolling through and like being willing to follow or just like see your post is very different from someone who stops, leaves Instagram, pays money, like just to get someone to stop and leave Instagram to like watch a YouTube video is like almost impossible to get them to like stop and pay money. So I was like, I don't know what a good conversion rate is, like 1%, 0.1%, 0.01%. So I thought maybe 10, I think I had like 90,000 followers. And so I think I was like, if I get 1% of these, followers, or I forget what the math was, but I was like, I thought maybe I could get 10,000. So when I got 110,000, it was definitely beyond expectations.
How did that affect your vision for Personal Finance Club and where you were going to take this?
I think it gave me fuel that this could be like a sustaining engine for good. The mission is the same, just to help people
Yep.
with money, build wealth, reduce wealth inequality through financial education. Doing that on any sort of scale, you can't really do without infrastructure and money and teams of people and stuff like that. And I even considered going the nonprofit route for a while. And I was like, I could just ask for money, but I was like, I don't really like asking for money. And I also like the idea of a self-sustaining model. And so it just gave me the vision that okay, this would definitely be possible, a nonprofit style mission with just a for-profit business model. And so, that's what we've done. So today, I think we've done $800,000 in sales since then. And that's been a year and a half or something, or not even a little bit over a year. And so it's, I have 2 full-time employees now, still early. I feel like they say one of my favorite sayings is overnight success takes about a decade. And so I'm in year 3. And I also hope it's an exponential thing. So I hope the first 3 years are very slow and the last 3 are very big. But I think we might be on the path.
So it sounds like you kind of hit a home run earlier on in your career. You sold your company, and it obviously didn't happen overnight, but you had an early win. What do you kind of see happening with personal finance clubs in terms of a win? Are you going to build this up to sell it, or do you see this as kind of being the thing you do for the rest of your career?
That's a good question, because first of all, I don't really see it as an acquirable company. My first company I sold, it was called RentLinks. It was a rental housing advertising engine. And we had customers and traffic and recurring revenue. And there was every, strategic value and, all sorts of stuff that companies would want to buy. With Personal Finance Club, it's we have me, a personality who creates almost all the content, and a bunch of customers who we can't sell to again, because we only sell one thing.
Right.
It includes unlimited lifetime access. It's the opposite of recurring revenue. It's we can't even sell anyone again so far. Obviously we can potentially change that business model or whatever. As to today, I don't see it as an acquirable asset at all. And even let's say someone offered me $10 million for it or something, then what? That would only change my life in the negative, honestly, because the additional after tax and everyone else gets their cut or whatever, I'd get a few more $1 million in my bank account, and then what? Move to a nicer house and then just be bored again.
Right.
I feel with Personal Finance Club, at least I have a mission. And so I think the long term is just to be the altruistic source for personal finance information out in the world. That's there's so much, and there's tons of good people yourself included who are doing it. So I'm not a lone horse, but you still go down any street on any city in the US and ask 10 people what is a Roth IRA, or give them a super basic quiz on financial literacy, and they'll all fail. 10 out of 10 will fail. And so we need all the help we can get, so I hope to help continue to address that problem.
And so in the spirit of the show, helping people achieve financial independence, I think your situation, you bring up something really interesting, which is you were able to make a lot of money earlier in your life. You wound up starting another business, but not with the goal of growing this to be something that you sold or you blew it out of the water. It was really more for fun. But even now, you don't see it as something that you'd sell. You're enjoying yourself, it seems like.
Yeah. I think it's the goal. And even when I'm building these products and stuff, I would have a Zoom with the people who had bought the office hours, and again, it's a one-time thing, so there's no monthly revenue there or whatever. And I really enjoyed talking to that group of people, but it was 20 or 30 people, a week would show up. I don't really, I want more flexibility in my life. I don't really like working this much for such a small group of people. And so now a lot of the challenge, and it's something I didn't do with my first business, was making sure to make purposeful decisions to create the business that I really want to be running. Right. I think if I was just trying to become a billionaire as quickly as possible, I wouldn't be doing this. This isn't $1 billion kind of company. I think I probably, not probably, but there's a very small chance I could start $1 billion company. But I'm not really giving myself any of this chance, but can make millions still, which ain't bad.
No, millions are good.
Yeah, I know millions are fine. What would $1 billion buy? A yacht? I watched some video about how to maintain a yacht the other day. You need a staff and docking and I'm money doesn't solve problems. Like money can certainly solve some problems. Like if you can't pay your electric bill, like I don't mean to dismiss that. That is like a terrible problem.
Yeah.
It makes you unhappy, and like getting above that level of like borderline poverty, like will for sure make you happier. It's not like life becomes easy. It's like these guys that own yachts have to like deal with their staff, and when their yacht manager is stealing from them, and they have to, figure out how to do their taxes and figure out how to like,
It's a headache for sure. You
Right.
can pay a lot of people to handle those headaches, I guess.
It's just different kind of life, I guess. Yeah.
So when you wake up every day, do you consider working on Personal Finance Club work? Do you say I'm going to work every day, or you're just like, I'm doing my thing?
I use that word when my
You feel
girlfriend
like it,
asks
though?
me like what I'm doing. I was like, I'm just working. I don't consider like the rat race. I mean, what's different, I actually did like last year, I actually started another tech company with 3 of my friends. That's like an artificial machine learning company. And that could for sure be $1 billion kind of company. And I actually left, like I stepped back as a founder. I couldn't do both. And I just really, really like Personal Finance Club. I wake up every day, and when someone asked me what is a Roth IRA, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell you,
Yeah.
And like, it's like a question I've answered a million times before. And a question I'm honestly a little bit annoyed with, because I was like, come on, bro, you're going to add, like, I've obviously posted that 100 times and 100 different, like, there's a video, there's a page, there's a post,
Yeah.
there's like, but still, like, I love talking to people about this stuff. So yeah, so I guess it's work in that, like, I'm at a computer and I'm creating content and managing people and stuff, but it's not working that I like, in the way some people refer to that word, like, oh, this is a slog. I have to drag myself into work and hate life for 8 hours or whatever.
How did frugality play into you getting to where you are now? I asked that because I just watched your awesome video on spending $5 a day on food versus $500 a day. 2 very different ways that people can spend. And you clearly have experience with frugality. So tell me more.
Personal Finance Club has 2 rules to build wealth. Rule number 1 is live below your means, and rule number 2 is invest early and often. And I always talk about, if you make $500,000 a year and you spend $500,000 a year, at the end of the year, you have 0, you're broke. Like I said, like in the pop culture, we don't really talk about this stuff, right? Pop culture is like, oh, the new line of cars is coming out. I gotta get the AirPods. I want to fly first class. Like, it's just like spend, better house. If you want to be wealthy, you have to spend less than you make. Even myself, who made, my share of my first company after taxes was like about $2 million. So I made $2 million. That was in 2015. It's 2022. So that's 7 years ago. You can for sure spend $2 million in 7 years.
Easy.
Like if I'm spending $500 a day in food every day or whatever, I could have bought a bigger house. I could have bought a boat. Like, in fact, like that boat thing I was mentioned, like you can buy a boat for $2 million, and then the annual maintenance cost on a $2 million boat is $600,000.
Yeah.
So like I couldn't have even bought a boat for $1 million. And I still consider myself very wealthy, but you have to spend less than you make. And so, but in the meantime, my $2 million, my net worth now is $4.5 million, because I haven't been looking at money as something to spend. I've been looking at money as something to grow. And so instead of I think what a lot of people do early on with money, they get a chunk of money and they mentally chop it up. Okay, how can I spend all this? Like I got $10,000 from an inheritance or from a bonus or from a lawsuit or from who knows what. Like, okay, I'm going to buy a new truck for $5,000, or put $5,000 in my truck, put $2,000 into an iPhone, go on a trip for $3,000. It's gone. But I think wealthy people, and like frugality, your point, looks at $10,000 and says, okay, how can I make this $20,000? Like, where do I put this? Where to deploy this money to turn this into 20,000 and then 40,000 and 80,000, and let it keep doubling over time.
I hope anybody listening to this just really listens to that and plays it again. It's just so important to be intentional with your money when you get that bonus or you get that raise to say, I'm going to go out and just blow it. Now I have more, I can go buy the Rolex or whatever. It's cool to be able to buy cool stuff, but if you're trying to achieve financial independence, if you're trying to not be in that rat race anymore, you have to live by that golden rule.
Yeah. Like what was it? It was a few days ago when I spent that $500 on food. You know what I have to show for that now? Nothing. In fact, all I have to show for it is like feeling of like guilt and waste. It's like, oh man, like, in fact, like I was like $50 short at the end of the night of spending all 500. So I like tipped my Uber driver like all the cash I had on me, which was $40. And then I'm like, oh man, I don't have any cash on me. Like I just have a problem now, right? And obviously for me, it's fine because $500 relative to my net worth is rounding error essentially. But I think that a lot of people who are broke live that way, right? They're like, they get $500, they spend it all, and they're like, oh man, I don't have any cash. And so when I spent that $5 a day, it's like, man, I was like walking up down those aisles, like I saw bread for $2. It's like, nope, because I know there's bread for $1.50. So I can't buy the $2 bread. It's gonna bust my budget.
You made it into a game. And I think if you can look at finances as a challenge, not as something to be oppressed by, but something that you can kind of be thrifty about, it becomes fun. I have fun with it. So hopefully others can look at it that way too. But
yeah,
listen, I really appreciate your time. Can you just tell everybody where they can find you?
Personal Finance Club. I'm easy to find. .com on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Google it.
All
Pretty
over
easy
the
to track
place.
down. Yeah.
Jeremy, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ian. It was a pleasure.
See ya. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. But listen, the best way to remember something is to write it down. So go to the comments, write down what you learned, and if you want bonus points, go out in the world and do it. Until next time, I'm Ian Group. Peace.